Oh boy, do we... Lucy, we got some splaining to do. We got to talk about the Heat. Yes. The Miami Heat have lost 2 games this week that they had absolutely zero business losing. They lost to the Philadelphia 76ers with no Embiid and no Harden. Yeah, that happened. And you're like, well, I mean, maybe they just weren't ready. They were 8.5-point favorites. They lost outright. Okay, sometimes you just don't get up for a game. I get that. But what happened last night? Ugh. Woof. That cannot, does not, should not happen. Golden State came to town and decided, yeah, we know Steph's out with a foot injury, but we're going to leave out Clay. We're going to leave out Dre. We're going to leave out the second coming of Wilt Chamberlain and Otto Porter. We're going to leave out Andre Iguodala back. We're just going to leave them. Who cares? They're not even going to show up. And the Warriors are a team that is, by all intents and purposes, reeling. They needed a win. And they said, we know that they're number 1 in the East. 4 guys, we just won't play them. Not even going to have them suit up. And they won that game. They were in danger of losing a spot in the West, and they were like, it's okay. We're going to punk them. Let's punk the shit out of these guys. And that is what happened. The Miami Heat in that game, 10-point favorites. Never close. It was already bad. It was already disgusting. The Heat are trying to make a run. In the midst of a 19-0 run to start the quarter, all shit hit the fan. Captured in glorious red camera HD, Jimmy Butler and my guy Erik Spoelstra from Portland, Oregon, former video coordinator, nice kid from Portland, Oregon, Erik Spoelstra. They're at each other's throats, seated, seat in front of seat. And Erik Spoelstra looks at him and he's like, what, Jimmy, you think I'm going to fucking fight you? Hold on, pause. Those were words spoken. Those aren't words that I just thought he said. Those aren't words that I just imagined what he could have said. Those are words that were captured live on video that he actually said out loud to his star player. What, do you think I'm gonna fucking fight you? What? Okay. Spoelstra yelled at Butler from across that huddle. Then Jimmy had to be held back. And then he goes after Spo. And then Udonis Haslem, the player coach, enters the chat, who is still part of the Miami Heat. He's still part of the Miami Heat. Udonis Haslem won a ring with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. He's still there. He's still there as a player. 40-something years old, oldest man in the NBA, and he threatened to beat Jimmy Butler's ass live on TV. He was like, yo, I will fuck you up. And he would, too. Spo threw his clipboard. Butler finally retreated. You see Kyle Lowry sort of scurrying away in the background like, I want no part of this nonsense. Absolutely. Trying to call a timeout in the middle of a kerfuffle. Right? Like, yo, I think we all need some extra time. I know there's a game going on, but do you see what the fuck is happening here? Things are in disarray. Someone tweeted that Kyle Lowry's that friend at a bar fight that somehow finds his way to the bathroom to wash his hands. Like, he's like, oh, doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. I'm just going to go ahead and get away from all this. And I love Kyle Lowry. He's like a tough guy, but he wanted no part of that. And Bam Adebayo said this. This is us at practice. Pause. Why? Why? Why does this? It's like when you see a couple fighting at a party or they have you over for dinner, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, a bottle of red wine isn't to, you know, the lady friend's expectations, and then she's like, this is just like Con when we went out and you ordered that shit bottle of Pinot. He's like, you know what, Zoe? I'm tired of this shit. I'm fucking done. And you're like, everybody's still at dinner, and everybody's looking at them, and they're like, should we leave? What should we do? I'm going to go ahead and just keep eating on this bolognese. Great bolognese. Can I get a little extra of that wine since you're not drinking it? And then the next day they're like, oh, you should see us when we're alone. And you're like, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. This shit is toxic. I know you think this is like a good, competitive, we get it all out environment, but to me, this is bad. This is really bad. So anyway, Bam Adebayo, back to the story. Bam Adebayo says, this is us at practice. It just so happened it boiled over to the court. No. Okay. But also, you do a whole other things in practice that are never supposed to make it to game action, Bam Adebayo. You know this, Bam Adebayo. It is now to the point where we have news and whispers bubbling out. Like, by the way, hearing whispers that teammates actually don't really like playing with Jimmy Butler. Hearing whispers that there's a possibility that, I don't know, the Heat might make Bradley Beal a part of their off-season plans. And to that I say, with what fucking cap space? You know a guy that would fit that cap space match pretty good? Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler matches my man Bradley Beal's max contract pretty well. Why? Also whispers coming out that Jimmy not particularly liked in the locker room dating back to his time in Chicago when Jimmy Butler decided he was actually the leader of the Chicago Bulls, not my man D. Rose, former MVP who is rehabbing, to the point where him and Enforcer, a.k.a. the Udonis Haslem of the Chicago Bulls, a.k.a. Joakim Noah, had to be separated. Folks, I don't know. Okay, in their last 7 games, the Heat have lost to Phoenix, Minnesota, Philly, undermanned Philly, and now Golden State. I'm telling you, this squad, as much as I love their heart, their teamwork, their intensity, the Heat culture, body weight's 4.8% and less. Like, as much as I like them, they are ripe for an upset against what now is a full-time Kyrie Irving. Eric Adams has found a way to skeet skirt around the rules, the best of his abilities, and find some sort of loophole for athletes and entertainers like Kyrie and the rest of the unvaccinated Yankees that exist, which is pretty much all of them. Yankees, big money. You're lucky, Kyrie. You're lucky that lockout didn't last into June, my guy, because you would not be playing basketball. Why do you ask? Last night underscores last night underscores the problem with this team. The problem with the Heat is that there is nobody on this squad that you can count on and rely on to get a bucket when you need one, with guys draped all over them. And that is pretty critical to a title run. Let's go through the East and assess how they compare to other teams and whether they have those guys. Sixers, Embiid, always getting a bucket late in the game. He can go use his big body, either turn around, jumper, floater on you, or just draw contact and make his free throws, which he is now really clutch at doing. That's easy. Nets, KD and Kyrie bucket getters no matter when. However when, against anyone, doesn't matter who's guarding them, they're finding space and they're finding a bucket. Bucks, Giannis, yeah, he's shooting free throws now. Giannis is using his body like Embiid. You've got Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton can get his own shot off the dribble, but also around screens, hit very clutch shots, which we've seen in the playoffs so far. Also, Drew Holiday, do not sleep on him. He can also do the same thing. You saw that against the Phoenix Suns when they were going back and forth this regular season in that game in Milwaukee, where they're trading baskets without Chris Paul, and Drew Holiday comes up and gets the go-ahead bucket. In traffic with guys all around him. Celtics, Tatum is known for an ISO bucket getter. That's all he loves to do. That's what he wants. He's like in the Kobe Bryant mold. Jaylen Brown does that as well. Let's look out west. Luka, of course, is going to bully you down the stretch. He's going to shoot a step-back 3 in your eyeball with 0.8 seconds left to go. Night-night, sleep mask, time to go home. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, you think they can't get a bucket in the mid-range? You don't think that they could almost elevate into space, hang in the air for longer than you can even spell your first, middle, and last name and get a last-minute bucket? Of course they can. That's what they do super well. Come on now. Out west also Jokic. Jokic can do that. He's just 7 feet tall, long-ass arms, and can shoot from anywhere on the court. I don't know. What is Miami going to do in those situations? Who are they going to rely on in those situations? And we know the answer to that, and the answer is Jimmy Brickets. Jiminy Brickets is what they should call him. Oh, Jiminy Brickets. Who should they really rely on? Probably Tyler Hero. Or maybe a guy who had a funeral for his knee in Victor Oladipo, which is absolutely sad. Or maybe a guy that was a two-way G League guy who played for Team Nigeria and made his little appearance and now is a full-time player in Gabriel Vincent. Those are all guys that get buckets better than Jiminy Brickets. Kyle Lowry, I guess. This team has no last-minute ISO bucket getters. That gives me pause. That is not a good situation there. And if you watch him, he clinks on the back of the rim consistently. You watch him down the stretch, and you would put your beating heart on him missing. He crisscrosses. It just looks awkward. It's always in the mid-range. If he shoots from there, you know it's probably getting an air ball. And you're like, nope, that's not going in. And it clanks, clank, 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 out. I don't know why, but it's true. This is the exact same problem that the Golden State Warriors have, actually, in a different way, is that teams triple Steph. They blitz him at the half court or even earlier than that. Steph has to pass out of that triple team. And then what does he do? He has to have a guy who can get his own shot, and that's Andrew Wiggins. And we've talked about this. Andrew Wiggins is just like Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. It's bad. He is not making any shots. You've got Clay, but Clay's a spot-up shooter. He's not nearly mobile enough right now to go ISO and figure out a way to get a late-minute bucket. And then you got Jordan Poole. He's not the guy either. This team, very similar in some ways than the Heat. The path forward, all that to say. I mean, let's just face it. They are going to get probably, and I hate Stephen A. Smith for jumping the gun just because he gets first take earlier than I do my show, is that they are going to get upset in the first round. If they play the Brooklyn Nets in the first round with Kyrie playing home games and away games, it's an early exit. It's an unfortunate event is what we would call that. And I think the truth is, even though the Miami Heat might not want to admit it, the best course forward might be to trade Jimmy Butler to the Portland Trailblazers. I love him. He's a dog. I think he makes his teammates better. I'm not quite sure. And you mentioned it. There are certain events that change your perspective on a human being. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but now every decision that they make from now on after that seminal event, that inflection point of history, you then look at them with a different opinion. Jimmy Butler, to me, at one point could do no wrong. And now I'm wondering if he might just be the problem.